Good evening, welcome to my presentation of a chat application written in C++. There's two parts to this application. There's a graphical user interface, as you can see. I've loaded two applications so as to demonstrate two users communicating via the network. There is also the API. It's a micro framework that's purpose is just to store data and retrieve data. And the data here is the users and the messages and the configuration for each users. I'll go straight to the demo. Once the user loads this application, they're presented with a login page. This is the first page that they see. There's two options. There's a button to register and to exit, close this application. Also, there is a login form, which is an email and password text field, and a button that they can click to log in. First thing we do as users is test if this form validates any fields. First validation is user not supplying any credentials. We should expect this to fail, and I've not entered any field, and you see credentials are not supplied. Next is to enter invalid format. So the email address is that and the password is that. These should not let us go through. They're not valid. So validation is strong here for security, and this will help towards that. Third option, now we enter valid credentials. Take note of this window here. You will see the API is being called, and I'm going to go forward now with a user that I've registered previously. You can see a request has been made and we're in. So the next option is to see what happens if any calls are made with a credential that's valid but it's not correct. So I'd say use the same users before and some dodgy password. These credentials are not valid, as you can see. Okay, that finishes the first part of my series demo. I'll be back in a second. Welcome to the second part of the presentation. I'm going to demo how to register. So once the user is logged in, I'm going to log this URL and you send back to the login page. But I'm going to register now. What you notice is the user, as a logged out, the user's been updated to logged out in the API. So any other user that logs in will see that this user has logged out. So let's get back to registration. Going to give it a name, Dennis3. Test surname, and for this demo I'll do 4ds d.com, and the password will be password 5, and you notice straight away the password field has been hidden. This is for security reasons, and the age is say 23, and a register. Registration successful, and we're presented back to the login page to log in. If you look at the API request, you can see we made a post request to it with the form details, and they've been accepted, and we got a 200 response. So come back here, we log in as 4ds with password we're logged in. As you can see, there is other users logged in once you log in your contacts pane, and to chat with a user, you click on their name, and you can see this is a new user, so they've never had a conversation with dennis@d.com, hence they can see that. You come here, you can see your profile, you can edit, change it, and to Dennis. Send that. You can see there is a put request, user update, and that's been successfully updated. So if I come there, you see my name is Dennis, and go back to chat. Alright, going to pause and I'll come back for my final. Welcome back to the next part of this presentation. I'm going to log in as this other user here, and we will demo sending messages back and forth. Keep an eye on this window here. This is where we communicate with the API in the backend. And log in. See that this user is logged in, and let's see, profile, it's crashed. Pause. The next part of the demo is to demonstrate two users chatting or sending messages back and forth. I'm just going to look at the profile. This is Dennis test username, and that is that, and this is another user, ddd@d.com. So going to select this user and this user here, so I'm going to say hi. So you can see the user has sent a message, and this will say hello. We expect this to be received at the top. That's been sent. And for the chat history, so we're going to log out, and let's send another message. This should persist. Okay, going to log out and log both out. Close the application, launch it again. Launch another one and log in. d@d.com. That failed. Password 4. Failed as well. Which password did I set? Okay, so we're going to log in and we need to see the history. So the ddd.com and this should persist is there. Even if we go to another user, we can see that it's there. The next demo will be a Teams chat. So this sends messages to all logged in users in this application. So hello should send to any other logged in user in the application. The next part of the demo is to show you the MongoDB backend that actually stores this data. So I've used the Mongo CXX driver to connect to this database, and it's really handy, really good documentation on GitHub. I'm going to browse my collections here in the database. You can see the users management tables. These are my users here, and as you can see, there are JSON objects, a key value pair. The user Dennis registered is there. The password, you can see it's encrypted, MD5 encrypted. Even I don't know what this password is for the user. We have the created timestamp and other users. For messages, we have a collection here. Tables are called collections in MongoDB. So as you can see if we can find messages that have been persisted. Plenty. Here we go. So the last message we sent was this should persist, and that ends the section of demoing the backend of the DB. I've used a free tier at mongodb.com for hosting. For production, you'd want to look at better, more robust packages that they have here. It's all in the cloud, and it's free to test your applications. Okay, that ends that section. I'm going to log out and proceed to exit. This closes the application completely, and the next section we're going to talk about the backend code. As you can see, the IDE used is Qt Creator. This is a C++ IDE. It's really good for graphical user interface, and the project is divided into modules, and this is so as to enable it to be easily portable, easily maintainable. And the modules are, there's a desktop version, so if you need to do a desktop, you need to do a mobile view, that's possible. You just plug in, and then all these other modules you plug into your desktop or mobile version. So there's a networking module as well. This is where the client server connection resides. Client, the server, and there's a worker that handles the incoming clients. So the server will accept the connection from a client and assign a worker to that connection and get ready to handle the next connection. And this is the user's core. This is the business rules. This is where the application logic is, users, messages, and API connection. A user is, this is the data class. I'll go to the header file. As you can see, it's all the basic data attributes of a user that we might be interested in. And one thing is the password generating for security, and a hash is auto-generated, and we never store plain text passwords. So generating a hash, it's really easy. There is a Q cryptographic hash library in Qt. It's pretty much straightforward to get that done. And in the constructor, every time you pass in a password, we auto-encrypt it so that we don't pass around plain text passwords in the system. There's the API. This is a sort of an adapter to communicate with the API. So the application will eventually call this with either get, a post, put, a request, and you supply. For example, a get is just a URL, and for a post you need the URL, which is a request object, QNetwork request object, and a byte array of the data that you want to post. This is also passed in, and you get your request. The put, which is to edit documents, you get your network request, build that, pass it here, the byte array of data that you want to update. The API will take care of the rest. And that's that. So we'll delve into the desktop. So there's a few forms here. There is a login form, which the user is presented with at the first instance when they launch the application. There's the main window, which is the main page. There's also the register form. The main window uses a stacked widget, queue stacked widget. So there's many widgets within this main window. It's like a book. There's the chat page, the Teams page, the profile page, all are stacked widgets in here. And that's it. One thing I like to mention is Qt has what they call slots and signals. These are very handy because for any action that you need any other object that's listening for an action that's complete for that signal. So if, for example, if you log in and you've completed successfully, you can see a signal logged in complete is fired. Anybody that's listening to this signal will be able to decide what to do. For example, you've finished logging in, it's complete. You need to let the user in and show them the chat page and the profile page. So that's really handy for this IDE. The next part is the API. It's pretty simple. I'll load the code. So this has been built using Docker for the local development environment, and for hosting the Docker image is in Docker Hub. Also the framework used is CRO C++. It's a pretty lightweight framework. Under the hood it's using Boost Azure. It's a C++ set of modules and libraries that are really handy, especially for network connection. For example, CRO is a network heavy application. So pretty straightforward. As you can see, we have the Bison CSX library. This is for manipulating JSON documents. We also have the Mongo CSX library, which is useful to connect to MongoDB to build queries for searching, for adding, and for building responses to send back. So a quick example, we'll look here, and for the main, we connect our data, we create the Mongo instance, we connect the URI, MongoDB URI. Mine is here, so this is my MongoDB URI. Wherever you have it, you have your collections. Collections are the tables, the databases and the tables that you need. And a quick sample is getting a user by ID. So you call this root, supply the ID as an integer, and using Mongo's find one helper method, we use the Bison CXX library to build a key value pair query that will pass into this function, and that will return as a JSON object value. Another interesting one is finding messages. So this one finds messages between two users. So if this is retrieving the history. So once we've retrieved all the messages, we pass them into a vector of JSON values are values. So that's where the message responses go to. Once we finish, we need to sort that vector messages, and we compare them. Looking at this, so using the standard sort library, standard template library helper method, we have our object, JSON object, and this object has the timestamp key. So what we do is we want the oldest record to be first in our array, so that when we display, the newest will be at the bottom. So this is where we do that sorting, pass that in. There are many ways of doing that filter, using a lambda function, or doing it this way is acceptable. So that ends the second part of this. This is a fully built image of this API, and it's currently hosted on Heroku, and this is on the free tier as well. And that ends this section of my presentation, and thank you very much for your time. Thank you. Bye.